r/creepyencounters. Kinderbitter says, my friend's dad. CW possible pedophilia. I've been thinking about making this post for a long time now. If there's a better sub for this, LMK. When I was in 3rd grade I had a friend, we'll call her Heather. She moved to my school from a state I don't remember with her mom. Her mom and dad were separated. Her mom was kinda weird and would call my parents a few times for long random conversations, but that's not really relevant. The incident happened when her dad came to visit. He was staying in a hotel and I was invited to come with her to the visit, cause there was a pool and we liked swimming. My mom was probably sketched out by the situation, but it was just for a few hours, so she dropped me off. It was just me, Heather and her dad. Her dad gave me really weird vibes, but seemed harmless, and I was a shy, awkward kid in general, so I never put much thought into my instincts. We swam at the pool. He kept asking us to go into the hot tub a lot, even though he wasn't swimming. We ignored him and had fun in the pool. The creepy part came after. We got back to the hotel room and went to use the shower to wash off the chlorine. I was just going to rinse off in my bathing suit and put my dry clothes back on. I assumed we'd take turns, but he insisted that we shower together and he was sitting on the toilet watching. He also insisted we both shower naked. I really didn't want to, and he kept insisting. I don't recall exactly if I ended up getting naked or not, but I remember my friend did, and he watched through the half-open curtain and I remember feeling extremely uncomfortable with it all. We were young, but not young enough to be showering together naked, especially in front of a man that I barely knew. I put on a towel as fast as I could once we were done and he offered to brush my hair for me after he brushed out my friend's hair while she was still naked. I refused and did it myself. Nothing happened beyond that, and I was picked up and never told my mom because I thought I'd be in trouble for letting it happen, though now I know she would have probably freaked out at him, not me. Was this an inappropriate situation? I think it was, but I tend to gaslight myself a lot, so I'm not 100% sure that it's as serious as it felt. I blocked the memory out for a long time. When the memory resurfaced in my teen years I felt nauseous and violated and it took me a while to process it. It's not the worst I've been through, but I think it definitely affected my trust in men, and I still feel uncomfortable around men who look like her dad. PLS be gentle, this took a lot of courage to write oit. I've only told a couple friends one time when I. Lila Bardissa Queen says, oh god, that is 100% inappropriate / unacceptable on your friend's dad's part. I'm so glad that the situation didn't escalate and that you were wary of him, but I'm really sorry that happened at all and that you felt the need to hide it. People are shit, it 10,000% wasn't your fault, and I'm sorry again for what happened to you. Miss_misery_ says, absolutely that was an inappropriate situation. You shouldn't ever doubt yourself on that again. I think you should tell your mom about it at some point and maybe look into seeing a professional to help you process it. Because yeah, that's I'm awful. Destiny Alexander says, this is an extremely inappropriate situation. I understand the tendency to gaslight ourselves, so I wanna assure you that this is 100 billion% as serious as it felt to you. He was probably just trying to normalize the situation so that you didn't tell your parents, and naturally that's confusing for a child. I'm so sorry this happened to you, and I know it's not easy to share these kinds of stories. Mshmir004 says, OMG, I'm so sorry, that's textbook grooming. Starting out taking small privileges with your body and slowly disrespecting your boundaries. I hope Heather is okay, sounds like he never should have been alone with his daughter. Us to Arms says, no matter the age, a guy shouldn't be watching another kid shower. 3rd grade is too old to watch your own kid. Yes, sometimes your kid may need help with water or something, but to sit and watch to brush their hair naked? No freaking way, I'm glad nothing happened to you. Incompatible 9 says, yes, it's inappropriate. It's more than that. It's disgusting. He was a pedophile. I'm so angry for you right now. Boo_jum says, I'm so sorry this happened to you. It was entirely inappropriate, and I admire the courage it took to post this. I had a friend when I was the same age whose father gave me the creeps. It got to the point I refused to go to her house unless her mother was also home because he freaked me out so bad. I don't think I ever said anything explicit to my parents until way after the fact. I'm in my 30s now. I probably told my mum when I was in my late 20s, but I think my mum twigged to the fact that something was up because she would always call over there to make sure that my friend's mum was home before I went over. I hope that you have gotten the support you need. It sounds like this was a pretty traumatic experience for you. r/creepyencounters. Kitterkalps says, creepy neighbor. So to start this off, I've seen so many posts with several comments that are insulting and horribly rude to the writer. I'm a bit nervous of how this will be perceived, but I'm gonna post anyway. For context, I'm a 20F, and at the time of these events I was around 12 to 13. So I grew up in a very rural area, like my town was so small it was legally considered a village. My house was one of 4 on a span of 40 acres. My childhood home, my grandparents' house right up the street, and 2 neighbors. One of the neighbors, not the subject of this post, we will call him T, had been living across near my family for as long as I can remember, and he rented out a trailer he owned which was inhabited by the 4th neighbor, the subject of this post, we will call him J. J and his girlfriend, who we will call her, had moved in a few months before these events and I hadn't really met them. I knew of them, but hadn't interacted with them directly. The day I met J and A was extremely awkward as I was a kid and didn't really want to talk to them. But my grandma had made me go with her to drop off some vegetables she had grown in her garden. When they came out after my grandma knocked on the trailer door, I was first struck by how they looked. I know that sounds bad, but I'm not judging. I now know both of them were addicted to meth. My grandma started the conversation and I tried to be polite as I was raised to be by introducing myself when told to do so. I wasn't really able to finish my sentence as I noticed Jay was staring at me very intently. He looked like he was either mad or hungry. Or both. Not the creepiest off the bat as they both seemed polite enough, and I brushed off the stare as just him trying to be polite, looking at me as I spoke to him as most people do. The creepy part is that as time went on he began to try and be near me more and more. He'd ride his bike past our house over and over for what seemed like hours while me and my brother played catch in the yard with baseball gloves and a softball. Then he began to go to church with me, my brother and my grandparents. He'd make sure to sit right next to me in the backseat of the car as he rode with us. If my brother tried to sit in the middle, so I wasn't right next to Jay, he'd throw a fit about how my brother was squishing him against the door. Then he began coming to my grandma's house when she'd have me and my brother after school, offering to tutor me with various subjects. What really scared me was that I had begun to see him walking near our house at night trying to shine a flashlight into my window. He tried various things to get close to me. Tried to convince my parents to let him teach me how to golf. Tried to help me practice my catching positions for softball. Tried to get me to go with him and to the movies. And none of these things ever included my brother. Only me. Things finally came to a head when I was playing with my dog outside in our front yard. She was a boxer, and he started repeatedly doing laps on his bike down the road again, staring at me like he did the day we met. I was extremely uncomfortable. I've always had very good intuition about people and something was always just off with him. But that day I was terrified. He parked his bike right in the middle of the road and got off. He started walking towards me at almost a jog and I just kept backing away. What happened next is why I believe that dogs are a better judge of character than people could ever hope to be. My boxer ran up to him and launched herself onto him when he was about 6 feet from me. She tore into his arm and I saw blood. I screamed and my mom ran out shortly after. She was trying to pull my dog off of him, but as soon as she was able to, holding onto the dog's collar, she started yelling at him, asking him why he was in our yard with me alone. He couldn't answer her and just started running back to his bike, riding back to the trailer. My grandma ended up driving him to the hospital as Jay and didn't have a car, and I learned later he got 16 stitches. He never gave a reason as to why he was approaching me, and they moved out shortly after. Haven't seen him since, and still terrified to this day. Run into him. Mshmir004 says, "Yeah, that's definitely creepy, and he for sure had ill intentions. There is no reason to try so hard to spend time with a child that isn't related to you." Zindigasunks says, "I can think of several different scenarios he might have had in mind for you back then, and none of them are pleasant. Especially since you'd mentioned the addiction issues the couple both seemed to have at the time. You'd said you now know they were addicted to meth, in terms of explaining away the reason you were shocked at their appearances upon first meeting them. When did you come to that realization? Did you ask someone just randomly told you out of the blue? Just curious about the context as far as to when you pieced that particular part of this memory puzzle together. Any idea why they'd moved out? Did the neighbor throw them out, or did they just up and leave on their own? I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but addicts, especially in the thick of it, aren't typically the types to leave wherever they're currently dwelling without putting up a fight. Just some more of my morbid curiosity, haha." That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.